Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Unlocked, where we talk about unlocking the potential of you, the people you work with, and the people you do life with. At the time of this recording, I'm offering all of you, yes, my lovely listeners, a free 15-minute communication coaching call. You come with some kind of communication problem, and I give you a solution. My calendar link is in the show notes, so check that out. Some of the people I get to meet by doing this show, kind of blow my mind. And I actually recorded 3 interviews today. 3 interviews. And they were all so vastly different. I get to do this. Neil is one of those people that I got to talk to today. I got to experience Neil. And now you're going to get to do the same thing. We're going to talk about some things that he's done at the beginning, some experiences he's had, a triathlon, an Ironman that he ran or that he raced, and then also a silent meditation retreat that he was on, a 7-day silent meditation retreat. We're going to talk about those things because, I don't know how many of us experience those things often, but we're going to get a little bit of inside knowledge, and then we're going to talk about how they apply to him building the company that he's built. Neil Emeigh is the founder and CEO of Rayobyte, a company he started at the age of 21, and he is still running it. Rayobyte serves over 5,000 customers, including Fortune 500 companies, with a focus on web scraping. If you don't know what web scraping is, here you go. He is going to explain to you what that is. Beyond his professional achievements, he has pushed his personal limits by experimenting with activities like an Ironman and participating in a 7-day silent meditation retreat. Despite a generous offer to sell his company, Neil chose to continue leading Rayobyte, driven by a vision to create a greater impact and give back to the world. And we're going to talk about that. He challenged me. He said, "Hey, Skot, just ask me some questions. I like to go deep. I like to understand, dig in a little bit more." And I said, "Okay, cool." So I tried to do that a little bit. Hopefully you're going to hear it. And you're going to hear a little bit of his brain turning. And I hope you get something out of this. I did. And it was so fun talking to Neil. I hope it's fun for you to listen to him. Here we go. Neil, thanks for jumping on, man. It's good talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Scott.
You're an interesting cat, man. And when I say interesting, that's the word I use for people that have done things that make me go, what? Okay, there's some stuff here that not just everybody does. And that's where I kind of want to start with you. So sure, Rayobyte, your company, we'll introduce that a little bit here, but I really want to talk about you as the person and you building your company as an entrepreneur and then living your life and doing the things you've done in your life that have helped you grow and challenge yourself. You are into this challenge yourself thing.
Yeah.
So let's go there. When you're building this company, you've started this company. How old's the company now?
9 years.
Okay, 9 years. You've experienced some pains and gains during those 9 years, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Talk about how personally challenging yourself in your personal space has helped you overcome the challenges in your professional space.
Yeah, that's pretty easy. I've done an Ironman, and that's one of the more extreme things. And what that requires is a level of discipline that you lose sight of in the day-to-day humbum of work and emails, and to stay consistent in a training plan day after day after day, and to build up to, I think I was at 17 hours of training a week. It forms grit in yourself. And that's just one example, but there's other things I've done personally that then I come back into the workspace. I'm like, wow, if I can do that, then I can handle this work challenge that's in front of me, for example.
So when you're give us some perspective on the Ironman stuff. So I'm somewhat familiar with it, but for those people out there that are not, like they've probably heard of Ironman, they just don't
Yeah.
know like what it entails. So give us the distances of the disciplines, and then also tell us like the rigor of the training and what that entails.
Yeah. So and I have to remember the miles. I'm now in kilometers. I think it's 2.4 miles swim, and then 112 miles bike. It's a triathlon, and then a marathon 26-mile run. And so you would assume that the race would be the hardest part, but for me that was one of the most easy. It was the training leading up to the race day that required this consistency of this grit. For I hadn't done a triathlon ever, and I got an email to this business group I'm in called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. And I said, "Hey, there's this very special race in Germany you can sign up for. It's an Ironman." I'm like, "Hey, this is a challenge. Let's do it." And I signed up in October and started training in January, and the race was in July. So I had 6 months to learn the sport of triathlon and to build myself up to do. The idea of the three disciplines is that they're kind of the same kind of effort. So like the marathon, most people understand like a marathon generally. The 26 miles is about the same as 112 miles biking, is the same as 2.4 miles swimming. That was the idea they're trying to get to. So I had to build up my body and shape to get to like all three of those disciplines. And I didn't even know how to swim starting into this. And the consistency, as I said, the race itself was just like something I did. It took me mine was just under 13 hours, but it was a consistency, 6 days a week of training for 6 months, building up to 17 hours. And it's not even that. It's all the eating. I'm not counting my eating hours, meal prep, and just consuming. I had to consume enough food, and then you sleep. Probably I was sleeping 9, 10 hours some days, and yeah, so on and so forth. It was a grind, to say the least.
So this was this is the first one you've done, because they have some smaller ones. There's a sprint
Yeah, yeah,
triathlon,
right.
which could take an hour and a half, maybe for on average, or there's Olympics that can take a little bit longer. They have like a mile swim
Yeah,
almost, and then 25-mile bike, and then a 10K run. And you didn't even do any of those. You were just
no,
like, you jumped right into
yeah,
the full blown.
yeah, yeah. I didn't. I do things to challenge myself to see if I can do them. And I figured a sprint distance, the smallest one, I knew I could do that. I could go out there and just show up and do it. The Ironman, I didn't know if I could do it. It was an honest like hesitation in my mind, like, ooh, I don't know. And now that's kind of, I wrote a blog post about it, that after the race and leading up to the next morning when I woke up, I had like this deep depression come upon me, and I couldn't figure it out for quite a while. I was like, God, I feel like crap, and I just wrote it off as like, oh, it's my chemicals. Like, you use all your adrenaline, all your dopamine just to like get across. You're using just so much, your body just like, and so I was like, it must be that. But after working with my coach a bit and self reflecting on what that was, it was I climbed this mountain, and now I didn't have something else to go to next. I mean, I was just like, well, I guess I could do a double Ironman. There are such things as that. But then I was like, what's the point? And then it's the more and more and more, and that scared me. I was like, I'm not in life to do more and more and more. But what do I do now? What's my next challenge to climb? And I haven't answered that in a lot of ways, and that was 2 years ago even.
Let me talk about, okay, let's transition to another one. Okay. So we're going to come back to
Yeah,
all these
yeah,
in a second. Um, let's talk about your silent meditation retreat.
yeah.
When you went into that, did you think you could do that? Was that another one of those challenges where you're like, oh, I don't know, like this is gonna be tough, or like
Yeah.
what was the thought behind that one?
Yeah, the context for the listeners, I did a 7-day silent meditation retreat in Bali. And there was no reading, no writing, no speaking, no looking at other people. And it was 20 of us, and then this kind of guru, and this nice, beautiful tropical kind of compound they had. And I think I was just so naive on that one. That one, again, it was a challenge. I'm like, oh, wow, that's really, I never even thought to even consider something like that. Could I do it? I'm sure I can, but I still, like, it wasn't like oh, that's an easy thing. So it's like, let's do it. I'm going to learn something when I do this. And that one I approached with more naivety, I think, than the Ironman, because I hate to compare the two, because one, they're just so different. But it had its own. It was worse than the Ironman in many regards. And I share this with people. I ask people. I say, when's the last time you've spent one day not reading, not writing, not talking, not looking at anyone, and of course not on your phone, which is like the most gimme, but nothing else. You can't read a book. You can't just hang out at a beach. It's just like nothing, literally nothing for an entire 24-hour period. And I looked at myself. I'm like, I haven't even gotten close to that. Maybe I've been like 2 hours of my life, that besides sleeping, of course. And to do that for 7 days, your mind really starts transforming into you get into weird angles and places, and it was strange. It was cool. It was cool though. I'm really grateful I did it.
So what in the world? Seriously, you say you do nothing, but I mean, are you sitting in a room just like
Yeah. So
cross-legged
we had,
for
yeah,
like
basic. It
15
was
hours? Or are
we
you
did.
walking around? Are you like you eat? I mean, like
Yeah,
what's going
yeah.
on?
Yeah, it was 4:30 every morning was the bell to our first meditation. So you're like exhausted. And our last one, I think, went until like 10 p.m. I think it was 9.5 hours of silent meditation, just cross-legged, eyes closed, and just focusing on your breath, in and out, in and out. And you did that 9 hours. Like, it was an hour, a break for 15 minutes, an hour, a break for 15, then lunch for an hour break. And so it's 9 hours over the course of a day. And yeah, you're just counting your breath for 7 days, basically.
That's insane. So, okay, marathon. I mean, I'm sorry. Marathons are. I'm just saying, marathons in and of themselves, I think, are insane.
Yeah,
I
they
don't know.
suck. I just did it
Marathons are like
recently.
the worst. I'll bike 112 miles. I'll swim 2.5 miles. But running a marathon is just crazy to me. So, but anyway, Ironman, crazy. Okay, when you kind of think of like outside the box, Ironman is like endurance. It's like I look at triathletes and I'm just like, they're a different breed of
Yeah.
individual. There's something that has to be there for that to happen. 7 day silent retreat. That to me is like, what? Like, I don't know. That it throws all these doubts into people's minds of like, what's possible? What can we do in that space? When you came out of these things, you had different types of feelings, emotions, experiences from those things. What was similar as far as what you learned as an individual coming out of those? And then what was different?
Similar between the two was, I would just use one word: perspective. Perspective on the world, things I learned, how to look at things differently, perspective on my life. Why am I doing this? Why did I do this? So I think that would be the one word that I could go all around with both of those coming out of them. And differently, the things differently coming out of them. I think that as I said, the Ironman, I came out of that one kind of freaked out about what's my next mountain, and that kind of set a whole course of my life, like going next to like figuring this out, and kind of, I would say, a little bit more dismally. Like, it was like I had to hit some valleys to kind of get to where I am today. After the Ironman, it was kind of like this wake up. With the silent meditation retreat, this is a different period of my life, maybe 2 years prior to that, where I was already in kind of a weird, I would say, valley again, like kind of just lost. I don't know what to do with my life. I was growing the business, but kind of lost. And so I was kind of there, and coming out of the meditation retreat, I was coming out more on a high. I was like, whoa, what was this spiritual world that encountered that I think I was maybe 24 at the time of this meditation retreat. So prior to that, I mean, I just didn't have this. And so it kind of gave me some optimism to like, wow, what's next? This is cool. Let's keep exploring and learning and being curious. So they're the opposite on the difference there.
So why do you think that is? I mean, if you look at this, both of them were a what's next scenario. That's what I heard out of you. Both
Mm-hmm.
of them are what's next. Ironman, it's like, oh, I don't know. Like now, okay, what's next? And it was almost afraid. It was like fear of the what's next, of having to like take on that next challenge, or the commitment to do something else, and
Yeah.
when's the end, and fearful of
Yeah.
that. The other one was what's next. Oh, this is amazing. Like this optimism, this positivity of like what's next, of what's the opportunity out there for me. Why do you think they were so different?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think what I would pull away is that with the meditation retreat for me, opened me up to a world of spirituality, and not in the the strongest like religious sense, but just like more to the world than logging into my computer and doing 200 emails a day and 5 hours of Zoom calls. Like that was just my prior. I was again 24. I started the company when I was 21. Leading up to 21, I was just a college drunk, like many college kids in university, just drinking, having fun. So I just didn't know much other than this. And so this opened up a different world of like, wow, there's spiritual, there's more to life than just the money and the work. What is that? That's interesting. Whereas the Ironman, with that, I feel that brought to question was what's next for that, whether it's a physical challenge, well, more or less a physical challenge, and it was more. I guess I may be. I guess I'm repeating myself, but the more is I realized I didn't want that more. It was in an area of physical and like competition. I didn't want to be this competitive person that just has to be the next Jeff Bezos in terms of whether financial, business, or even personal life success. Whereas the meditation, the what's more there was expanding, widening my perspective of the world. I don't know, did I answer that? Did I connect
Yeah, I
that?
think so. It's I don't know. Let me throw this at you and see if
Yeah,
this
please.
resonates at all. But I hear like the retreat was a introspective, spiritual, like elevation, almost like out of body, kind of just this perspective on everything else of the world and the planet and whatever. The triathlon was definitely a physical thing. Now, I'll tell you that anybody, and I've experienced this too, and distance and long endurance things, right? There's a spiritual aspect to that,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you get done, there is this euphoric state.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I did that,
Yeah.
and like it is those, that adrenaline, dopamine hits, that euphoric experience. But it seems to be like the physical demand on that. Not saying that the retreat wasn't a physical demand. I'm sure it was very physically demanding, but it just seemed like more of a worldly thing versus the
Mm-hmm.
spiritual thing. Um, I don't know if that resonates with you or not.
Worldly in the sense, in the sense, I think of how society defines success. Maybe, wow, Neil, you ran an Ironman. Wow, what's next? Well, I guess to beat that, it has to be a double Ironman, huh? For you, the person I'm talking to be impressed, and that was a type of pressure that I confronted me, and I was like, wow, I don't want that more lifestyle. Whereas on the spiritual side, I think that's different. It's a different conversation. It's like, wow, Neil, you did this. What's next? And my answer would be, I want to broaden and increase my awareness of the world even more than making more money with my business. More, I want to be more spiritually in tune with the world than I have ever been before. And that is a competition that I'm excited for. I don't know. Yeah, It's hard. It's hard to connect those dots. It's a great question, Scott.
That's interesting. That's it. Maybe you
Yeah.
need another retreat. You can
Yeah.
think about it. You can think
Seriously.
about it. Well, I mean, it's kind of like you do say, like, what's next with the next Iron do a double Ironman? I don't think anybody's going, well, what's next with the retreat thing? Well, I guess I do 14 days on a
Yeah,
retreat.
exactly.
Like,
And that is actually the
you know,
next step with this one,
oh,
right?
is it?
Yeah, 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 right.
All
Right.
right. Okay. Well, maybe one day.
Yeah,
So let's bring this back to a practical sense, I think, for
yeah.
leadership. And I think with the audience that's listening to this now, what they're hearing and how they can apply it. So give us a quick rundown on the company first.
So we're Rayobyte. I started it 9 years ago, completely bootstrapped. We have 50 employees, 5,000 customers, Fortune 500, and which we do is called web scraping, data scraping. So we help companies gather data at scale. The easiest use case for most people to understand is like when you search for a flight on Google Flights or Skyscanner or hotels or Booking.com. When you see a list of all your options, you sort it by the cheapest price, usually as a consumer. Well, the way that these search engines, Booking.com, Kayak, Trivago, Google Flights, the way they're doing that is they're scraping this data from the web. They're bringing it into one user interface for you, the consumer, to get value from it. So we generally help things and use cases around that.
Okay. I love that you just said, because I sit there and I go, man, like we've had like a pretty deep conversation. It's like soul, sweat, challenge, overcoming obstacles, endurance, like all these things. And then it's like, man, this what's the company? It's like, oh, we do web scraping. It's like
Right.
very data, it's very tactical, it's
Yeah.
very like I don't know how much heart is in there behind data scraping,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
tell me about why you started the company in the first place. You believe that um, for-profit companies are not just here to make money. But with data scraping, you sit there and you talk about, okay, so all right, so what's the heart of the company for you? Why did you start the company and why do you stick with it? Why haven't you just sold it and like made $1 billion and gone off your way?
It comes to generally my purpose and what we've ascribed to be the purpose of our company, which is it's Simon Sinek's why, not what. What we sell is data scraping. Many companies do that. Why do we sell it? Our purpose statement as a company is to help people bring their great ideas to life. And so today we sell data scraping, but in the future, I really do aspire to offer different products, tools, whether physical or software, that help people bring their great ideas to life. And that comes from my own nature, which is when I started the company, I go back. I started SEO, internet marketing, when I was 15, so 15 years ago at this point, and I was just always curious to just try new things. Oh, what about this idea? What about this idea? Oh, let me try this. Let me try this. And then when we landed on our current product as it is now, it's our product right now is like an infrastructure. Like it's kind of useless just like sitting there on a shelf. It needs somebody to build something around it. And I got so excited talking to the people that were just using like a hammer. Like I was just selling them a hammer and then they would build these homes. And I was engaged in those conversations and could help them bring those ideas to life. So that's where I get a lot of excitement today. Yeah.
Where do you think companies falter when they look at building a company, when they're building a for-profit? They're here to make money, and
Yeah.
if you are public, you have shareholders to answer to,
Yeah.
and they're like, that's great that your purpose is that
Yeah.
thing,
Right. Right.
Neil, but like we need you to make your numbers so that
Yeah.
your stock price increases and that we get a return. Like, how do
Right.
you
Right.
manage all that?
It's to be transparent. I do not have the answer to it. It's extremely difficult internally and externally to the finances, the profits. Internally, having our team get on board with this idea it has been extremely difficult. And I would say we're not entirely there yet. Most people hear me saying these things and go, yeah, okay, but we have KPIs to hit, we have our OKRs to hit, and so on and so forth. Externally, when I say it that way, like to make profit, I've noticed in the last year or so, when we've leaned too far into this purpose, feely, goody thing that you hear cliche as a rebuttal to this idea, things in our company kind of started crumbling a bit, or we weren't making money basically. And so we had to swing the pendulum back, which then created this case with our team, especially of like, oh, well, if we're swinging it back, it must mean it must not be good. You must not really care about that feel good stuff because you're swinging it back. And it's been difficult. We're actively in this right now. And I don't have all the answers. The one answer I do have for myself, at least, is at least we're trying. At least we're trying our best to say, gosh, dang it, maybe we have to focus on money at the end of the day. Maybe we're going to stay alive. But let's try just a pendulum here and then revert back if we have to, and then a pendulum here and then revert back to. And I think if every business in the world did that and just try pushing themselves to be more, have goodwill for the world than just revenue and profits, you would believe statistically that the world would be a little bit better of a place, I think.
Do you consider yourself a pretty authentic guy, Neil?
Humbly so. I try to be. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the whole thing of like, do you consider yourself a humble guy, Neil?
Yeah,
and you're like, well, yeah, it's the cycle of
exactly,
as you
right.
claim
I
it.
don't know how to answer that. You're right. Yeah, I try to be.
But I think that's part of it. And it was that testing, I think, of the pendulum of like, let's go heart, like purpose. I think the purpose is going to drive us. If we can, along with Simon Sinek, we say things like, hey, this is why we do what we do. And if we can find other clients and work with other people that believe what we believe, then ultimate profits are going to come.
Right.
But something was happening to where that wasn't happening. And you had to like be smart enough and intuitive enough, and also know that that there's people there that are relying on you, and their shareholders and board members and things like that you had to come back a little bit. You had to and I think that and understanding yourself and your soul, not selling your soul, but saying, hey, this is still who we are. I'm not ignoring this, but we do have to make sure that we are this too, that we're being profitable. But you know what? We are still going to keep pushing this purpose stuff. Why is that so important for businesses, and where do you think they sell themselves short?
From a practical making money, succeeding in business perspective, my opinion is, I think you can be a successful business, and I did this in the first years of the company when I was kind of just more focused on money. I think you can be a successful business and have linear growth. You can compete in the red ocean of business, and you can be successful. So I tell their peers, I talk to business peers, and I say, there's nothing wrong with that. You can be successful and be happy. When I look at the great companies of the world, the Apples, the Googles, and so Teslas, so on and so forth, I look at the majority of, not every one of those companies. You have, Enron was extremely successful, but that story. But the majority of the companies that exist today that are successful, they have that heart. There's something special about them, and that's where I think Simon Sinek's whole book talks about the why. And so for me, practically, when I look at financial success, I would much rather take the gamble and have that greater success backed by some like this authenticity of heart and purpose. Like that's a win-win if we get there, then crawl our way and fight our way through pennies of margins in a linear red ocean, essentially.
Well, I'm going to look at you and I'm going to say, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like that's stupid. Why would you do that, Neil?
Yeah. To put the gamble and
why would you do that?
Yeah, I think it's that, I said, like the win-win. The payoff is not only, I believe, there would be greater successes, but two, the greater successes are being fueled by heart and purpose, whatever your purpose. For me, I would I visualize, I would love millions of people using our tools, just tools, a hammer, bringing their great ideas to life, them showing it off and saying, wow, look what I built. And I would just get so excited seeing that. And so feeling and seeing that vision is all worth it. If I bring it to the other side and say, how do I maximize every customer's every penny? How do I upsell them, cross sell them, put pressure on them? Things that businesses can and sometimes should do to maximize shareholder value. But at the end of the day, I feel dirty because at the end of the day, I'm just saying, well, how do we maximize profit? I'm not motivated by that. It's not a long term. It's not going to keep me going in it for the long term, I think.
And how do you find people to work for you that are like that that believe in it? Are you focused on finding people that are doing it, or do you just need people that are like can build scraping stuff?
Right. This purpose journey has been, I mean, it's ever evolving. It's the pendulum. 1 year we're one way, 1 year we have to kind of pull it back. But we've been leaning into it more in the last 2 years than anything. And so our new hiring practice, we don't have a lot of turnover in our company, so we're not hiring that many people where we're filtering this. But now we do in our hiring process. We have very specific questions about what is, when you hear this purpose statement, what do you feel? Or give me an example of ideas you like to bring to life, or what hobbies do you have? And we're trying to listen for people saying, well, I love programming on the weekend, or I love reading a DIY book and then go building a birdhouse in my yard. Like, those are the people that we're trying to identify that resonate with this. But with our current people, then, our current staff more or less has been people that resonated with my innate values. I've always been this curious-hearted person that wanted these things, and so I feel like I'm surrounded by people that more or less resonate with that purpose.
So doing the hard things, the personal things that have pushed you, that have pushed your limits, that have expanded your vision, your perspective, heightened your awareness of all these things. How do you think those have attributed to your success in your business? Again, let's hit on that one more time.
Ask the question one more time.
So all the things that you experienced, we're talking about the triathlon, we're talking about the meditation, we're talking about other trials that you've experienced in your life that were difficult, things that pushed you beyond your limits, things that you didn't know if you could do them. You launched this business. That may have been another one of those. Like, I don't know if I could do this. I'm going to take this thing on. But you've been successful. Okay. We'll just quote unquote, whatever successful means. By all means, it seems successful. You've grown it. You've expanded. What are the things that have helped you get there through, I'm talking about the challenges and the pushing yourself beyond, that have helped sustain you through the growth of your company?
Self-reflection would be my one, I guess, hyphenated word. The thing that I would attribute the most to my growth as a human being, my growth as a leader, my growth as a man, has been the time I spend self-reflecting on my life and what's happening. I'm an avid believer and follower of Stoicism. And I journal every day, but I mean, when I'm going on vacation, airplanes are one of my favorite times of the year, because I have this complete uninterrupted time to do nothing else but sit in this cramped little seat. And that's where I just journal and I write. And so I have hard notebooks. I have my digital notebook, just thousands of pages, thousands and thousands and thousands of pages in the last 9 years. And I don't think I'd be where I am had I not taken the time to do that, if I would just plowed ahead and not sit back and listen to myself and listen to what I'm feeling, listen to what I'm seeing ahead of me.
Is there a specific prompt or a specific question or a specific challenge you would give to other leaders right now listening to this?
A prompt in a journaling or self-reflection?
Yeah.
The one that I have most resonated with, that I write every day, every morning, and then especially when I'm stuck in life, is, how do I feel? Sorry, I write, and I change the person perspective. I actually write, how do you feel? I'm talking to myself, and I score this from 1 through 5, 3 being normal, 5 being awesome, 1 being shitty. I write that number down, And then I go and I just like, oh, this is why I'm feeling this way, and this and this and this and this, and I need to solve this, create an action item over here. And it opens me up when I ask myself, how do I really feel?
So quantifying that right off the bat, and then going into why. So, I mean, in business, we have a lot of things that do that, right? When you talk about net promoter scores and all kinds of stuff, it's like, how likely are you to refer this person? Well, it's 7. And then it's like, why? And then like but that quantification first gives some context, I think, to our literal brain. And then we get into the heart. I always think like, when I was doing a lot of brand strategy work, and even when I'm coaching leaders now, it's the heart and the brain that like have to come together to make something happen. Well, we satisfy the brain, the logic part first, and then the heart flows. Right. After that. It's kind of a belief system.
That must be what I'm doing without knowing it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love it, man. Thank you. Yeah. So what are you doing right now that you want other people to reach out to you for? Why would somebody want to reach out to you? Sure. Like, maybe they want to invest, or maybe they want to just understand data scraping, but on another level, who else do you want to reach out to you, and why?
I would like a call to action on my blog, neilemeigh.com, because I want to connect with people who share these same ideals as me. I want to hear the people who say, you know what, I pushed myself in life way too hard, and I realized that I didn't want to climb the next mountain, and I'm lost, and I'm wandering around because that's where I'm at right now. Even I'm kind of lost and purposeless and directionless. In some cases, there's my business, but then there's so many other aspects. There's people like that. There's people who have reached success in life, how they define it. In my case, I have a lot of business success, and isn't fulfilling in a lot of days. And I want to connect with those people. And so following me on my blog, reaching out to me, I would just love to learn from other people who are facing these things so I can learn, and hopefully they can learn from me as well.
That's brilliant. How do they do that? Go to your blog.
Yeah, neilemeigh.com, and there's a big flashy contact me button there with my personal email.
Okay. Flashy neon sign, fingers pointing.
Kind of. Yeah, if you see my homepage, it's me with that's kind of my trademark at our company. I have the peace sign.
Nice. Neil, this has been fascinating, man. Like, I've super enjoyed this, and likewise. I don't usually go so deep on some of these questions, but you challenged me before. You're like, ask me some stuff. And so
you did great.
We got to go there, man. We got to go there. Well, thanks for being on. I really appreciate it. Thanks for staying after hours over there in the Netherlands to hang out with me too. Appreciate it, man.
Cool. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate you.
Helping people bring ideas to life. Purpose statement. That's kind of what's the heart. Okay. Web scraping. I don't know if he's like, my whole purpose on this planet is to do web scraping. Probably not. I'm just going to throw it out there. I didn't hear Neil say that, but I'm going to just throw it out there. No. What does he enable people to do or be because of the things that he's built? I think that's so important when we think about what we're doing right now. And when you think about the experiences you've had in your life, the things that have pushed you, the things that have, you doubted you could get through them, and maybe you didn't get through some of them, and maybe you did. The point is, the journey is what was the learning experience. Neil said it. The race wasn't necessarily the learning experience. It was the training. That was the trial. It was the discipline. It was the consistency of that really shaped him and who he was. Now, the experience, Ironman, and then having the experience afterwards of feeling the way he felt, and then the silent 7-day meditation, and then having an experience after that, and just comparing the two has brought some awareness. And that personal awareness is amazing. I think it is so interesting to hear him think about how when he's on an airplane, Not sure if he ever watches a movie. Some of us watch movies, some of us don't. But you know what? He journals. He writes thousands of pages of thoughts and ideas. Do you think Neil knows himself a little bit better because of that self-reflection? I would probably bet he does. I would challenge you all. Take a moment, self-reflect. How are you feeling right now? Stop for a second and think about, how am I feeling? And then, why am I feeling this way? If you want to find out more information about me or check out the show notes where there's going to be more information and links to the things referenced in this episode, visit skotwaldron.com. And lastly, I'm asking for a little bit of love, just a little bit. So please take a moment, follow, rate the show. The algorithms like that. It helps me get the word out. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And until next time, stay unlocked.